How do you become more authentic? Well, you can be honest as much as you can. Be honest about your vulnerabilities. Be honest about your insecurities. And stop hiding behind a mask of strength. Because actually, strength is weakness in disguise. The greatest strength is actually within your weakness. And I'll say it in a different way. And I got this from a teacher that I went to see called John DeRuta. I wish it was my own phrase because I love it so much. But he says, your greatest strength is within your weakest weakness. Your greatest strength is within your weakest weakness. And there's two ways that I could talk about this. Firstly, if we find people who we can be honest with about our struggles and all the stuff that we've been trying to hide, or all the things we're ashamed about, when you just can find someone who you feel comfortable with becoming totally honest about all that stuff. And for me, it's been my teachers, but also my good friends who I've been lucky enough to find a few amazing friends who are also on this path and willing to be honest and vulnerable with me, with each other. And within that vulnerability, we've learned to be honest about all that we previously were trying to hide from everybody. And when you really get to a point where you're not ashamed of anything within you and you're okay with people seeing your vulnerability and your insecurities and your weaknesses, then you can be totally honest and you can come into your true authenticity. Your greatest strength is within your weakest weakness. So there's another much more profound way of exploring that phrase, your greatest strength is within your weakest weakness. And that is that strength is a quality of ego. Strength was developed from a young age to protect our innocence. So when we were young kids, we developed all these protective patterns within our bodies and minds to almost fight the world. We were taught to fight the world and to act from our strength, and we're taught that it's good to be strong, to have a strong ego, a strong self. And so we learn to fight our way through this world. Our greatest strength is within our weakest weakness. Yet there's something within us which is so fine, so weak, that it cannot be harmed. There's a place inside that is so soft and tender and weak. It's our being that isn't strong. It's our weakest weakness. Yet, within that weakest weakness is our greatest strength, because our weakest weakness cannot be harmed. When I first started opening to this pointer, the image came into my mind of, those very fine feathers that you maybe get in a pillow, like duck feathers, or just imagine the finest feathers, very light. And just imagine that loads of them have just been sprinkled onto the floor, so that it creates the finest pile of these very, very fine, wispy feathers, that even the slightest breeze would blow these feathers all through the sky. Yet somehow they manage to pile up into a really big pile of these very fine feathers. Now you could call that pile of feathers weak, because there's no strength within it. There's no strong structure within it. Yet, could those feathers be damaged by you running into them at full force? What would happen if you went and punched those feathers? Would they be hurt? Or would your fists just move straight through? It's the weakest weakness, the finest. Finest aspect of your being. And if you come into that weakest weakness, if you come into the tenderness and fineness of your being, then you cannot be harmed, because that cannot be harmed. I'm not sure if the feather analogy does anything for you, but it did for me when I first thought of that. And as I'm sitting here, I'm just sensing into my inner beingness. Your greatest strength isn't within strength. It's within your weakest weakness. When you become comfortable with your weakest weakness, you know at a deep level that you can never really be harmed. And you just feel this. You just feel this beautiful emanation of your heart. You feel that weak yet radiant heart. The love of your own being. And you allow that love to look through your eyes. And if there's fear in your body, you just rest within the gentle fineness of your own being. The strength of your weakest weakness.